All right, let's get started. Welcome. Nice group. My name is Jasper, Sonnevelt. I am an agile consultant from Holland. So I do agile coaching, training, basically everything that needs to be done to help an organization work more agile and work in a more agile fashion. Today I want to share something with you. I like doing experience reports, talking about stuff that I see happening in organizations, stuff that happened to me. I like to talk to you about something that sounded good at first, but didn't turn out to be so good for us in the end. And it's called, we're getting so few complaints about you guys, there must be something wrong. So Jose, I don't know if he's still here. He just said, oh, so you like getting complaints. Actually, I do like getting complaints. Complaints means that people care. If they just don't say anything anymore, they're usually gone already. I'd like to share a couple things about that with you guys. So what I'd like to talk about is a big organization, big governmental organization, where there was a very big project going on. Well, very big. It was a long project, mostly. The clicker has an on button, by the way. So what it started like the project had a very traditional project organization, and they called me and they said, well, we would like to do this in a Scrum fashion. We'd like to work agile. We think Scrum will work very well for us. Can you come over and see if this will work and how this will help us deliver faster? Because that's the main problem we're having now. We're a year late, and we'd like to get some stuff out of the door because some European funding actually depends on this project. So I said, all right, good. Tell me about what you're doing and what you have. So I said, well, we have. We're trying to be a little bit more agile about it as far as we can be within the constraints we're having right now. So we managed to create a work package that contains only 3 months of work. And in here we've written some user stories, and they need to be done at the end of the 3 months. All right. So what else? They said, well, we have a team we'd like you to coach, to help. There's a Scrum Master, there's a couple of developers, and there's a tester and an analyst. And don't worry, it's okay. You don't have to be here full time because they're only working on the project 2 days a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. All right. Okay. Well, and as you might have figured, 3 months of work in a work package, and then user stories. They read somewhere, well, we need to have at least 12 to 20 user stories. So they said, well, let's do 20 user stories for 3 months' work. Pretty big. This was a system they were building and they were creating for their organization, and a lot of local governments and ministries were supposed to start using it. So there's a lot of external stakeholders in a very political situation, and this project was very important because of the funding they'd get and because of just regular compliance and laws. And this was already late. So the basic team structure looked something like, project structure looked something like this. So there's a bunch of product owner type people. They were mostly managers from the different departments paying for the project. They have a backlog that was more or less actually the work package that we got every couple of months. Then there's a team of developers and analysts, testers, and there's a whole group of customers. And the customers were the same local governments and ministries as the product owners came from. And they would have their own project managers that would try to make sure everything they wanted was built. All right, so here's where it got complicated, because this kind of makes sense. So it might not be ideal, but it works. These guys were from a third party. So they were hired and they were flown in. So what I see happening more and more, and what happened here as well, is that if you work for an organization and you get a third-party supplier to send people over, and you ask them if they have Scrum experience or Agile experience, they get the Scrum Master certificate and they say yes. And most of the organizations don't know that you don't have a actual very 100% chance of the people having actual experience for more than 2 days. These people were all at different locations, so not the location where we were developing. And those were the people using it, and the other people were the people making decisions. So we were talking to a lot of different people in a project that was very part-time, but still important. So we thought, all right, so how do we do this? Let's start with what we do now and see where we can end up. Let's first start with making the team work smooth and predictable. So they're doing Scrum, and I wouldn't recommend Scrum in every situation, but for them, well, they wanted to do it, so I didn't want to disturb them too much. All right, so we'll do Scrum. We'll see where it ends up. We'll use the ceremonies. We'll use the different artifacts you have. We'll call some people product owners. We'll have a Scrum Master. Let's see if we can get that to work first, and then we'll see what we'll do. We'll start making some policies more explicit. What are we building? When are we delivering it? When are we going to ship stuff? So something that they had never done before was do like every 2 week or 3 week. They had a management meeting with the people, the product owners. They were in a product board, as they called it. And they would never see the software. So we started just sending those guys, well, this is what we're doing for you now, and this is how it's working, and this is what we've actually made for you. And so with doing that, we got them to a little bit more involved in the process. So this is basically all pretty straightforward. And we said, well, if we get that to work, and that should be, well, it should take us a couple months, no longer, then we'll start involving the rest of our own organization. The ops team is overworked. They are swamped with work. Most of the quality of the software that was delivered wasn't that good, so they were fixing most of that stuff. It would be nice to have them on board. They didn't like anything that had to do with any project at all. So, but we thought, well, maybe not at first. We'll show them what we're doing. We'll see where we go. But just let's let them be for a while. We get our own stuff in order first. Then structure the project portfolio, because this is a system that is used by many customers, but there's also different projects to develop stuff on the same system. It would be nice if there was some structure to that. There wasn't at the moment. So, but same thing. Let's let it be. Get our own project working first, and then see what happens. And then maybe get the people working on it 2 days a week to work on it for a little bit more than 2 days a week. And then maybe do some other projects as well and put it on the same list of work we have, on the same backlog. So the first thing we did was we started to look for a way to cut that huge work package into smaller pieces. And the way we did that was first to explain a little bit why do you want to cut it up, and are you working on the right things? In this work package, there was a feature, a search feature was in there that was supposed to be built by a third party that we had never met, and they said, well, you need to deliver that thing in 3 months. We're like, that's never going to work. So we needed to have a way to structure the work, split it, get it in a much more predictable fashion for us. So we used Jeff Patton's story mapping. So who knows what story mapping is? All right, good, nice bunch of people. This has been very useful for me. So basically what you do is you split up your backlog in more than one dimension, where you say, well, we know that the stuff we have on here, it is prioritized probably in the right way, but there's lots of ways to make it less bulky than it is right now. So you put it up in a way where you say, well, we put the features on the horizontal axis, and then on the vertical axis, we'll put there what could make it more awesome, would make it more nice, faster, more secure, better, stuff like that. And in the middle, you can create the task and the user stories and distribute them on them. So what this would look like, I used to, for the left thing, I used to use a picture of the Mona Lisa drawn, and then I saw a tweet from somebody from Spotify a couple weeks ago, and they have a car there as well, but I was drawing it, and the car was too much trouble. It took me some time to draw a nice bike, and I thought, well, it gets the point there. So basically what you do is you said, well, we have what we want is to get from A to B. And how do we do that? And we want to see if that's even possible. So to do that, we need a mode of transportation. And mode of transportation consists of a couple things, but there's probably wheels on it. There's probably some way of steering it. Having brakes would be nice in most cases. Having an engine would be super awesome, and lights would be very cool if you're traveling in the dark. But you don't have to build all those things at the same iteration and have them ship at the same time. Building a skateboard at first could be perfectly good enough to get from A to B. You don't want to travel across the country on a skateboard, probably. But it proves to you that something with wheels on the bottom is something that might get you from A to a little bit towards B at first. And then you don't need brakes yet in the first iteration, because you can just jump off or brake with your foot or something. And if you're doing it wrong, break your foot. You don't need an engine yet. You don't need an engine until you're motorized, creating a motor. If you're building a bike, you don't need a motor yet. But brakes are way more useful then, so you should build them. You should build them there. And this way, we tried splitting up the project into different functions and features, and then just starting to very basically say, all right, so what is it that we need in the first try? What do we need in the what do we then want? What do we want afterwards? Because one thing everybody seemed to know, and I didn't notice at first, but then I started reading the actual work package, is that it was way too much work for 3 months. They had done 2 work packages and they were a year late. So there was way too much work. So this was our first try, and it got better and better and better. And we put the basic functions of the application on top. And then we added here, and first there were just priorities. So what we did is, in the first try, we didn't focus on what do we want to call it, or do we want to give it a theme or group it in any way. We just said, all right, so what's first, what's second, what's third, and how do we do that? These stories are all still very big. And some of them were actually very technical, and some were a little bit less technical, but not necessarily user-centric. So this was our first try, and throughout the project, in the weeks after that, we started refining this and improving it. I unfortunately don't have a picture of how it ended up after the first work package, but it was completely filled with yellow and orange Post-its. So just by putting it up there and putting it in the room out there for us, gave us a very nice conversation piece. We were not allowed to put anything up on a wall. We did, and they took it down. I've never seen this before, but it happened. So basically, when I came in, I did what most agile coaches do, I started littering post-its all over the walls and windows and stuff like that, just to create a visual image of what they were doing. And when I came back next week, it was gone. And I said, well, what happened? And they said, well, as we told you, they took it down. So what we did here was we used a whiteboard in a conference room, which was lucky, turned out later, because the only reason we used it, because it was the only whiteboard we could get. And it was in a conference room. But later it proved that just because it was there was a small one next to it, and we put our definition of done on it. It helped us very much communicate to people what we were doing. And most of the meetings with all the clients were in this room. So if there was a customer there, they could just see what we were doing, seeing the board change, seeing when it was done, when it would be delivered, and what would have been done. So we're about 2.5 months in now, and the team is happy. The guys working on the project are doing very well. They're collaborating very much. We had to change one person because of the reason I told you. Had on his resume that he had agile experience. Turned out he didn't. So that's the nice part when having a third party, is that you could talk about it and they say, well, no problem. We'll bring in somebody else. We'll put this guy on a different project. So now the team is working together great. There's a good cadence of retrospectives going. So every 2 weeks, retrospectives, and most of them actually really helped improving very quickly. And the team got into a mode where they really got how to split the user stories in a way that would be very good to explain to the product board, the product owners, what we were doing and how we were cutting them up, and still make it work for them so they can actually build something and not be completely customer focused. So this was the board when we started. So this is the same board. It's about what was on the story map as well. And this blue thing, I don't know, you guys won't be able to see if it's blue probably, but it says this is where we think we will get in this sprint, in these 2 weeks. What it turned out, and what we had improved later on, is that it took for the top part, it took 4 to 5 weeks, which was a very long time. When we started improving and when we started doing more stuff and more focusing on splitting the work, this is what our board looked like. So it looked a lot better. And we got the whole blue part over here done in 2 weeks. Doesn't mean we did more work. We were just better at cutting it up in smaller pieces. So something else I noticed, I don't know if you guys seen this before. There's a section in this board being used as a whiteboard. So it's basically just, well, doesn't matter that there's Post-its around it. We need to work on something, and we need to figure this out. This is a major smell. Who's seen this before in his organization? All right. So what does it do?
Limits creativity, limits collaboration.
Yeah. And why? Do you know why people do it? I have a theory, but you're nodding. You know something.
They didn't have any other whiteboards.
Good point.
And why didn't they have any other whiteboards? Because it was impossible.
Okay.
They had to get approval for a whiteboard to be purchased.
Oh, okay. So it's a smell for something else in the organization here. Well, we yeah, Chris. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what you were saying was what I thought at first that it was, that they didn't have another whiteboard and they needed somewhere to put their thoughts down. So we got them another whiteboard and they didn't use it. And that's when I started to realize that what Chris is saying is that they don't see the value of the board around it yet and the post-its that are on there. And when I saw this and I started noticing this, I started paying attention to it at different clients. It turns out that if you have a neater board, it's not just because there are more lines on here and because there are more post-its on here. Here's the process they drew on here. They took the time to actually put it on the computer and draw it out and put it up on the board on a different piece of paper because the board actually started to mean something for them. Something interesting I came across, just wanted to share. All right, so what we had now is we had a team working and we created like a ready process before them. So from the backlog is where they would pick up the work and start working on it. And before this, we tried to cut up the work package into different user stories, tasks, stuff like that, and then put them up on the story map. And then from the story map, they would go on the backlog, and the backlog was prioritized. And we would go back and forth between the story map and the backlog and slice them up even more, make them smaller, split them, prioritize them. That was a process we had going on for a while. And then at some point I realized that we were not going to make it this way. We were getting stuck. So we optimized the team. The team was doing pretty good. We had a happy customer. They were involved and they were having fun. They liked showing up for the demos, stuff like that. But it's still we still got stuck. There was something still going wrong. So we were still working with a team that only had 2 days a week. So that's very weird. I am still trying to figure out why an important project only allocates people on Thursdays and Tuesdays. I don't know. There was no real priority list in the backlog, in the portfolio, and the ops team was still overworked. Those guys really, really hated us. So what we did is talk to them a lot. Apparently we were the only project doing that, and just bring them cookies and coffee every now and then slowly they'll start to like you a little bit more. And roughly this was how our project flow would look like. So there to the Dan was struggling with this this morning as well. To the left, next to the story map, then there's of course the splitting and the work packages. But this was our flow and how it would work. The problem was it wasn't. There was small incidents and changes that was thrown not necessarily into the same team, but towards the same people. So they would be allocated. There would be 4 people in the team. They would be allocated to at least 4 different projects. And then there was another one, and then there was another one, and we didn't have a whiteboard. One of the other projects worked with the same people, worked on the same application, and their board, and I'm really bummed I don't have this picture, is on the back of this board. So they would actually we would do a stand-up from 9 to 9:15, and then at 9:30 somebody would walk in, grab the board, walk it around, turn it around, and the same people would do a stand-up again. Which is funny, but it's not effective. The thing is, everybody knew this, everybody saw it, but we couldn't change it. The team wanted to change it. They were like, they got it. They were like, yeah, this doesn't work. Like, that's what I thought. The organization would let us. So somewhere in the organization, the other project managers on a higher level, they wouldn't let us or help us or trust us to change this into one single backlog, because that's what we wanted. We wanted all these projects to just go into the same story map, or go into the same product backlog, and from there on, let us just put them in the same team. So this is where the interesting stuff happens, and this is also where we said, well, we need to go big or go home, or actually we said we need to go big or I need to go home. Is we wanted to change this part. We wanted to change the ready process part. So that's where the title came in. Somebody actually said this. I don't hear anything from your project. It doesn't feel right. All right, I didn't see that one coming. I thought I had a lot of coffee with a lot of people and talked to a lot of different stakeholders, and I thought everybody heard that we were doing great. We didn't get any complaints. We had happy customers. They actually liked it, and still there's somebody saying somewhere on a position where we were supposed to listen when they were saying it. They were saying, like, all right, so something doesn't feel right. Okay. So a couple lessons I learned. Don't forget to involve management. This is a manager sitting somewhere in the organization. Well, actually, I knew where this person was, and I trusted that the Scrum Master I coached did his stakeholder management because it was his boss. And apparently, he thought the same thing. He thought he'd done his stakeholder management. He had bi-weekly meetings, told about how the project was going and what was going on, and still it happened. So that's where lesson number 2 came in. Politics, politics, politics. There's always something else going on. I think I should have known, I just didn't see it. So when we started talking about me speaking here, I submitted this story, and I thought, well, next week we're having the meeting to restructure the whole project and to get to get one team, to get everybody to work together. So this is a good story, and this will have a very happy ending, and it'll look nice. That's when the lessons kind of came in. So what turns out is all the other projects were roughly structured like this. So there's a project backlog, there's a team working, there's a steering committee, and there's a customer. And the customer and the steering committee are not connected. And there's maybe a product owner somewhere, but it's mostly this kind of structure. Our project didn't have that. And that's where our problem was. The manager that said, this doesn't feel right, was in here. So we ended up in a meeting on a Thursday afternoon at some point where we said, all right, so we got all the stakeholders here, we got everybody, all the portfolio manager, the manager, this manager, we got all other project managers that are involved in the other projects here. Let's collaborate, let's co-create, and let's see if we can draw the organization the way we think it should be. And this meeting went completely sideways. And that's when I discovered this. So that's where my talk went in a slightly different direction than I would have anticipated. What happened actually afterwards is that this was a very political meeting. It went more about who's steering what project and who says he's in control of what or who. But afterwards, we got all the problems out on the table. We got all the project structures drawn out, which is very nice because only then you can see how different all the projects were structured, how they were steering, how many backlogs each project would have. And now we're on to the point where we're actually doing what we thought we hoped to do in the beginning, is structure all of the work into one backlog, into one story map, and then put it into one team from there on, because they're still the same people. They would like to work together, and they want to collaborate with each other. So we might still get there, but there was a big twist I didn't see coming. So to round up a bit, I think scaling, whatever you do, and especially in this case, and for me with government, this was a very big lesson. Let it start small, let it grow, because people will get involved. But don't forget to include your invisible stakeholders. And in this case, this stakeholder wasn't invisible. We just missed it, or I missed it. Turns out this person had very much influence, and almost kind of sidelined the transition, which is too bad because we were doing really great. And it's important to optimize the teams, and it's good to focus on the teams. But I see a lot of in general, a lot of people in agile projects and agile transitions focusing on optimizing just the teams. But the ready process is just as important to get flow, and it might even be more important. And I wonder if there's enough focus on there. All right, so that's my story. We got a few minutes left, I think. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much.